So to put it all together, I'd like to provide you with a couple of demonstrations. First, we'll start out with the Event ID trigger technique that I showed you. We'll finish up with a second demonstration illustrating the performance threshold trigger. I'll be utilizing a virtual machine for this demonstration. I'm just going to bring up an administrative command prompt. As you can see here, I'm situated in the Troubleshoot working folder that I've created. Now, there's several scripts I wanted to illustrate. I'm going to go ahead and type out the start perf logging command. This should look very similar. It's the one in the slides that you've seen where I'm doing a logman create counter to create a data collector set called myperf. Now the corresponding counters.txt file that's referred to, I'll just type that out so you can see that. There's all the various counters that we'll be collecting data on. I can then issue the start perf logging command to get the data collection set running. I can then quickly do just a logman command to show you that myperf is out there and it is indeed running. Now, there's another command procedure out there called startetwlogging.com. So let me go ahead and type that out. You can see, once again, it's a very similar command to which you saw in the slides, where I'm doing a logman create trace, giving it the NT kernel logger. So let's go ahead and start that one too. So I'm just going to start off the kernel logging, and it actually gives us some information about the NT kernel logger. I can use the logman-ets command to show you all the different loggers that are out there. And here's the one that we just started, the NT kernel logger. So it is out there running. Now, let's see what else is out there in the working folder. As you can see here, there's the not my fault procedure that we're going to utilize to crash the system. We've also got a couple of command procedures. I'm going to go ahead and type out the gatherdataevent.com to show you what is in that action routine. And again, the first thing I do in that action routine is to disable the task so it doesn't perpetually refire, causing the system to crash over and over again. I then have the various commands like logman stop myperf and logman stop the NT kernel logger. We'll wait a few seconds for it to flush out the data. Then we're going to add a registry key followed by running the not my fault C64 crash 0 hex 01. That will actually crash the system. So those are the different command procedures. You'll see I have a different one for both the event ID one, and we'll cover the alert one a little later. To get this thing running, we now have both the perfmon logging running and the ETW out there running and collecting data. If I were to do a directory, you can see we've got 0 bytes in the kernel because it's buffering it in memory, just like perfmon is buffering it in memory at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and do the CD, and I'm going to go to my event folder. And there's a couple command procedures out there. We're going to take a look at the eventtask.com procedure. So let me go ahead and type that out. And you see that's the one that actually creates the scheduler task called my event. So let's go ahead and run that. Here we go. I'm going to run the eventtask.com. It'll create the event, and then I had it also display the event, as you could see. Here's the event called my event, and there's the task that it'll run, the gatherdataevent.com. That's the action routine. Now we can actually fire up the task scheduler by going to computer management, and you see the task scheduler here. So let's go ahead and bring that up. And this shows us all the corresponding tasks. And if I were to scroll down here to the active tasks, I should find the task I just created under my event. So I can double click that to give you a bit more information about what it looks like. Here's the My Event. It is in a ready status, and I can actually double click it again to show you the properties. Here we see the trigger, which is on event, and we can actually edit that to show you a bit more about it. So here we can see we can actually edit the event filter because it's a custom one. And as you can see, it is indeed checking for that event ID 1587 that we set up and established. So that's how we can use the GUI just to confirm what we did via the CLI. And we'll just cancel out of here because all that is set up properly. And at this point, we're ready to rock and roll. So let me just go ahead and type out the test procedure. That's the test event setup.cmd. And you can see that it's creating yet another task called My Event Test. This will be that duplicate scheduler task that we create just to test it out. And it'll essentially be triggering on this event 1, 2, 3. And then that's what we're subsequently going to test with. We're going to fire the event create command triggering event 1, 2, 3. And so when this command executes, it'll essentially cause a system event to be logged, which is detected by that scheduler task, which then fires off the action routine to collect the troubleshooting data, namely the perfmon logging, the ETW logging, and then it'll crash the system. So let's go ahead and fire that off. There we go. We should expect a crash in the near future. There it is. It has fired it off, and then it has actually created that dummy event 1, 2, 3. And at this point, the action routine is fired off. It is collecting the data, and as you could see, the system has crashed. So it did exactly what we wanted it to do, to collect the data, and now it's collecting a memory dump. So we'll just wait for the system to reboot for a moment. All right, then, and we'll go ahead and log on. And we'll go ahead and fire up the command prompt. Simply right-click the Windows button. We'll bring up the context-sensitive menu to allow you to bring up an administrative command prompt. Here we go, administrative command prompt. We can also acknowledge the fact that we did in fact have a crash. By going to the troubleshooting folder, we can take a look at things such as the kernel.etl file. You could see that the crash time was 10:58. That's when we collected that data. Same thing with the perfmon logging data. We collected that. And we can also see that the memory dump in the Windows folder has a similar date and time of 10:59. So that hopefully shows you how to go about doing the event ID trigger, and we can use the sched task command to actually query that task, my event test, to show you that in fact it has been disabled. Oops, forgot a dash in there. There we go. So you can see that the scheduler task state has in fact been disabled. Status disabled. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of how to go about implementing the event ID action routine to trigger a crash and collect your troubleshooting data.